Hi, I'm Teresa Ruth Howard with MyBodyMyImage.com, and I'm coming to you with a C&Say, a video commentary or review of the Netherlands Dance Theater's performance at the Joyce Theater this past Friday, February 6, 2015. I really am gaining a larger appreciation for the curation of programs. It's extraordinarily difficult to put together a program of 3 or 4 different works by different choreographers, even by the same choreographer, that have a really beautiful arc, that have a lovely opening, that sort of rise to the middle and then leave you with some sort of either yay moment or some sort of profundity, something that makes you remember. That lasting impression is what that last piece should give you. And for me, I feel like this is where this evening really sort of failed me. I didn't get a sense of cohesion in any of the works or from the works, and I felt like they actually weren't even the best choices for those dancers. But let's start at the beginning, as most shows do. The first piece on the program was entitled I Knew Then, I Knew as in brand new, as opposed to I Knew as in no. It was choreographed by Johan Inger. The decor, the set was also designed by him, and it was done to a suite of Van Morrison songs. Okay. This one really left me flat. Okay. Perhaps this is a part of my expectations. Perhaps my personal expectations weren't met when I thought about Netherlands Dance Theater. When I think of this company, I think of Yuri Killian's artistry. He has a way of making the set and the costumes oftentimes, or props, other characters in conjunction to the dancers and the music. His concepts are always so full and well thought out and rounded. This piece really lacked that. I had trouble following it in terms of there were relationships that were alluded to that weren't fulfilled. There was a sort of sporadic or sort of implied narrative that never got fleshed out. I thought that the movement, though, I can't even really call it very interesting. It was based in release technique. It was very gestural, but empty gestures because they were maybe interesting visually, but when you're building something together, it should lend itself to something, which I found that it didn't. I thought that the dancers, although they executed it well, there really wasn't enough there to show them in a virtuosic manner. It really, for me, skirted the realm of commercial contemporary dance. Perhaps it's because when I hear a lyric and I start to see movement in a certain way, it just takes me to that place that gives me that nervous tick and makes me just think, why? And what is this doing here in this forum? I have to say, there was one dancer who really stood out to me. Her name is Imar van Opstal. She was absolutely captivating and committed in everything that she did. She had sort of a tomboy, sort of, I'll do anything. She was the girl that, like, in my mind, in the studio, she's like, you want it done? I can do it. Okay. What do you need? She was kind of that, like, she had that hunger and she dug in and she was really exciting to watch. I appreciated her. It was one of those pieces overall that sort of meandered, went back and forth. It didn't really go anywhere. I thought there were probably some great ideas in there, but none of them were developed. So I have to say, for that first piece, I was a little bit deflated in my soul because I had been kind of let down. Act 2, Shutter Shut, choreographed by the artistic director, Paul Lightfoot, and his choreographic partner, Sol Lyon, and featured, it was a duet, which featured my new favorite dancer, Amir von Upstal and Spencer Dickhaus. This was a duet that moved laterally across the stage, solely downstage, to Gertrude Stein's If I Told Him, the poem, the spoken word poem. And they were the physicalization of the words. It's, if you're not aware of it, it's a very repetitive piece, and so the gestures repeated and accumulated or decreased as the words decreased or sped up or slowed down, and it was somewhat whimsical at times, and very difficult to execute. It was very quick. It had to be precise. Sometimes it was in unison. Sometimes it was slightly off, and the timing was a little tricky. So as a dancer, I really appreciated what it took to execute. Was it groundbreaking? Perhaps not. But for me, in that moment, it sort of grounded me in the hopes that, okay, maybe that first piece was just a one-off, and this is moving us into the direction that I personally feel more comfortable in, or that was a part of my expectation when I sat down in the theater. So I enjoyed it as sort of my landing, because I was kind of bounced up in the air with that first one, and this sort of grounded me. That was short-lived, because the next piece was entitled Sarah, and it was choreographed by Sharon Eyal and Guy Behar, and it was done to a composition by Ori Lichtig, The Knife, From Off to On. Yeah, no, this is where it really went wrong for me. If I thought that So You Think You Can Dance was in the house, this one just, I was angry. I was just angry. And I'm going to try to keep it together like I did in the theater, because I really expected that little child, Maddie Siegler from Dance Mamas, to come out with that blonde wig and that Sia thing. I thought something was going to happen. And let me tell you, when I say that, I might have wanted her to come out, because what was happening on the stage was incredibly disturbing and uninteresting to me. A cluster of dancers stand on stage left, and there's one dancer in the center. They are all in these sort of flesh tone unitards, and the cluster begins to tick and do small gestural things, and you think maybe they're going to break out at some point. No, they don't. They stay right there. Maybe they move a little bit forward, but that's basically it. But that doesn't really bother me as much as the fact that the girl in the center, wait for it, begins to lip sync to this song as she's doing some sort of amorphous fetal cringing. I couldn't, what the hell? That's all I could think was, what the hell? And it went on for the length of the song, which was far too long. Yeah, and so here you have these incredibly trained dancers and these artists who have traveled across the world to do that. I mean, I was mad. And I have to say that at that curtain call, they all looked a bit pissed too. I don't know if it was character, but they all looked like, that's what they looked like. That's what I felt like. I was insulted. Seriously. I mean, I know it's horrible, and I hate to speak that way, but it kind of left you like, what the hell was that? Literally. So, okay, I'm going to try to regain my composure, because we're moving into the third act, and that was entitled Subject to Change, and that was choreographed by, again, Sol Leon and Paul Lightfoot, who is the artistic director of the company, and the music was Franz Schubert, from Der Tod und das Machten, Death and the Maiden. I guess I could have read it in English and been all right with that. There was a rolled up carpet downstage, and I said, okay, here it is. This is it. This is like the the sort of signature Killian-esque sort of thing. And 4 gentlemen in black suits walk out, and they, as they step, they pull and they unroll the carpet. It's a red carpet. And a young man, Oliver Kofard, I'm probably butchering these names, comes forward in, black sort of jazz pants, bare-chested hair like chow, which was a little distracting, but that's a whole nother thing. He comes forward and begins to dance, and he's then later joined by Yukino Takahara. I probably butchered that too. Takahara, no H. And then we are treated to something that is more traditionally in the style of Netherlands dance theater. It was a beautiful piece. Aesthetically, it had elements that were very, very interesting. The use of the carpet to, when the gentleman would take 4 corners and turn it when a dancer was on it to change direction. Sometimes they would wave it under their feet as they would do a phrase. They were coming down the diagonal. At one point, they created a wall with it. From upstage to downstage, which was a really great, with that red against the black, was very, very effective. In terms of the movement vocabulary, there were elements that were sort of traditionally Killian, and some of the partnering as well. Although I have to say that I wish there was more space in between phrases, perhaps, so that I could embed some of those moments in my memory. That was my moment. I have to say that at one point, the gentlemen who were the sort of like controllers of the carpet, each of them had a solo. The standout moment for me in the evening came from Alexander Anderson, an exquisite brown boy, who twirled out his solo. I could not believe it. Triple attitude turn into a triple arabesque turn into a coupe jeté, attitude holding the foot. It was exquisite. It was like, it was the only piece he was in, and he was like, I came to do this, and he did it. And that was very exciting. That is the type of dancing not only I expected, but I wanted to see. I felt like some of the artistic choices in terms of presentation were a little curious. Sometimes there would be, in the first piece, for instance, it was sort of an absent-present sort of thing, and then a couple of the dancers would like smile and flirt, and I wasn't sure which direction that was supposed to go artistically, as well as in subject to change. I didn't understand the choice of the female dancer being so presentational. It seemed more like a private moment sort of a piece, which would evoke that sort of fourth wall. Perhaps this is a young company. One of the things that wasn't present in the playbill were the bios for the dancers, and I think that would have helped me understand some things, or at least be a little more compassionate, because perhaps these are young dancers who have just come together and they haven't yet bonded, and Mr. Lightfoot hasn't had the opportunity to really get his hands on them and mold them in a way that they have that sort of weight and presence on stage. But I have to say, although I was disappointed, I was glad I went. Because I'm glad I could bring it to you. So that is my first solo See and Say without Miss Wendy Perrin, who I love very much, but our schedules are so crazy. I decided I would just, go it alone when I could. So this is Teresa Ruth Howard. Thanks for tuning in. And this is mybodyMyimage.com.